Welcome to Pretty Lies and Alibis. Let's seek the truth and travel the long road to justice together. What you know, Alibis, happy Tuesday. I decided to do a little update on some of the cases that we've been following since I have been crazy busy with the Wagner trial. So some things have happened in other cases. I wanted to do this, but now we find out some new stuff that Jake may be broadcast in his testimony. We'll get to that in just a second. Real quick, big thank you to Peggy and PJ both for your donations. Greatly appreciated. And it helps me to be able to do what I do, which is what I love. All right, real quick music fact of the day. Top 5 highest grossing songs of all time. Number 5, I Will Always Love You, Whitney Houston at 20 million copies. Number 4, Rock Around the Clock, Bill Haley and His Comets, 25 million copies. Silent Night, number 3, Bing Crosby, 30 million. That was released in 1935, y'all. And number 2, Candle in the Wind by Elton John, 35 million copies. And number 1, highest grossing song of all time, White Christmas by Bing Crosby. That song reminds me so much of my grandpa. And I have so many fond memories at Christmas of hearing him sing that. All right, so a real funny story very quickly. My son, who's 15, him and his friends play pranks on each other nonstop. So the other day, his phone blows up Sunday, just nonstop texting calls. I'm like, what is going on? One of his friends actually put his phone number on Craigslist saying that he had a free goat that he was trying to give away. So he's been getting crazy calls, y'all. It's insane. So his friend finally took it down, but the number's been shared. So now he's just answering the phone in funny accents and, you know, having a little fun with it. But anyways, all right, let's get to what we know. All right. So first of all, there's been some updates in the Harmony Montgomery case. As we know, 5-year-old Harmony Montgomery was declared deceased not too long ago, but now her father, Adam, has been charged in her murder finally. He was charged with 4 separate counts relating to her murder. The first count, second-degree murder, and that was for recklessly causing the death of Harmony Montgomery, a person under 13 years of age, under circumstances manifesting an extreme indifference to the value of human life by repeatedly striking Harmony in the head with a closed fist. I just can't even imagine. Number 2, falsifying physical evidence, purposely altering, destroying, concealing, or removing the body of Harmony Montgomery with a purpose to impair its verity or availability in an official proceeding or investigation between December 7th, 2019 through March 4th of 2020. The third is abuse of a corpse for purposely and unlawfully removing, concealing, or destroying the corpse in Manchester between those same dates of December 7th, 2019 through March 4th of 2020. And the final charge was tampering with a witness in an attempt to induce or otherwise cause Kayla Montgomery to testify or inform falsely between December 7th, 2019 through January 4th, 2020. So in July 2019, Adam admitted to his uncle that he hit Harmony and caused her to have a black eye. And he was bragging, saying that he bashed her around the house. So the uncle called Child Protective Services to report that incident. This, again, is just another case of a drop ball with Child Protective Services. We're seeing this way too often. I mean, just every other week now. The uncle also told investigators that Adam would force Harmony to stand in the corner for hours at a time. He would spank her on her bottom very hard and would make her scrub the toilet with a toothbrush. Adam's wife, Kayla, remembers Harmony having that black eye, but Adam told her one of the other children had hit her with a toy. I kind of think maybe I wonder if Kayla is finally talking and giving up what she knows. So at the presser, they said they knew through biological evidence and other means of investigations that unfortunately that sweet little baby is deceased. So we'll keep an eye on that for some hearings. I believe today actually is his arraignment. So I'm sure there'll be no bond set, but we'll update you. Now we're going to jump over to Kaitlin Armstrong. She was back in court yesterday in a pre-trial hearing for the murder of Mo Wilson. She was actually in court last Wednesday And the focus of that hearing was the arrest warrant filed by Richard Spittler, who was the lead investigator on the case. Her defense filed a Frank's motion, which essentially is a legal proceeding when a court is asked to determine whether a police officer or investigator lied in pursuing an arrest warrant. Her attorneys say Spittler had reckless disregard for the truth when he filed the arrest warrant, and also alleged that he left crucial information out of that document. And Spittler denies that and says everything in that document is true. Some of the allegations of untruthfulness are that Spittler said in the warrant that Kaitlin and Colin Strickland were in a, quote, romantic relationship at the time of the murders, which I'm not sure that was in dispute. They were living together. Her attorney, Mr. Coffer, questions Spittler on whether the term relationship was accurate in describing the happenings between her and Colin. They also alleged that Spittler incorrectly listed dates and times and relied too much on anonymous callers who were calling in tips, and did not corroborate reports of other Austin PD investigators who were also working on that case. Spittler said he wrote it based on what information he had at the time, and said that any errors on that warrant were not bad enough to say he had reckless disregard for the truth. Also, Katie Connor, who was the first Austin Police Department homicide investigator to interview Kaitlin, was on the stand last Wednesday as well. If you remember, Kaitlin was initially detained and arrested for skipping out on that Botox bill that was like a Class B misdemeanor. She would have posted bond if not been released on her own recognizance, but it was a way to get her in custody. However, when she was brought into the police station, she wasn't questioned about that bill she skipped out on and the reason for that warrant, but was questioned about the murder of Mo Wilson. Katie Connor, as we know, was told the birth date on that warrant was not right. So that meant the warrant was invalid, and Kaitlin was told she was no longer under arrest. We know now that date later was determined to be correct, and it was just some miscommunication that unfortunately led to her being on the run for 43 days after they let her go. So even after being told that warrant was invalid, Katie continued to question Kaitlin for about 10 minutes regarding her relationships with not only Mo Wilson, but Colin Strickland. Kaitlin's attorneys say she was detained by Katie Connor, who would not allow Kaitlin to leave after she was told she was not under arrest anymore. The state says Connor was within her rights to question Kaitlin about how she was connected to Mo Wilson, and Connor said she informed Kaitlin 5 times that she was free to leave. They showed a video where Colin is seen in fetal position on the floor after being told that he was the last person to be seen with Mo while she was alive. And on the other hand, according to the investigator that testified, was as cool as the other side of the pillow when being told that Mo had been murdered. So just, man, I hope this isn't some kind of technicality thing that really screws things up. So we will keep an eye on that one. The next one is Quinton Simon. He was reported missing by his mom on October 5th, and Leilani and her mom, Billy, gave an interview to WTOC yesterday. And man, I'm going to tell you, she tried hard to whip up some tears, but those tear ducts were taking a vacation because I didn't see any. She complained that protesters are harassing them, and she said it makes it hard to even process what's going on around us. We get to the point to where we have to barricade our own home in order to feel as safe in our backyard because we can't even process what is happening everywhere else or even have the time to do so. I can't even walk out and appreciate my own son's memorial or put down gifts that I got for him. I can't even go out there and do that without harassment and negligence and everything. It's just devastating to see this is how the outside world reacts. I'm here. I've been here every day since this. I'm not running and I'm not hiding. And if something does come up that I'm at fault, I will take myself to the police station. What the heck kind of a comment is that? I mean, if something does come up that I'm at fault, I will take myself to the police station. I don't think I've ever heard anybody say something like that. And by the way, she is currently the only suspect named in Quinton's disappearance. They know he is in a landfill, or they assume that he was put in a very specific dumpster. They seem to know which one. They are still combing the landfill. They spend their time in the backyard, according to Leilani, because being inside with Quinton's stuff is too painful. So Quinton's biological father, his name is Bubba, talked to the Daily Mail and said Leilani was trying to blame Quinton's disappearance on him. She told police that he was the one that came and got Quinton, although he really hasn't been present in his son's life and lives far away. And he was confirmed to not be in the area. He said when she got pregnant with Quinton, she tried to hide the pregnancy initially. They kind of had a past together. They both were arrested for breaking into trailers together. Leilani had cut a screen and went inside the house and stole $50 from a change jar. Just stay classy. Bubba said Leilani would become very violent when she was out of money and he wouldn't give her any to buy drugs. He said she spent most days snorting cocaine and smoking weed, and she would go crazy and would be physically abusive to him when she was coming off drugs. So he initially questioned if he was Quinton's father and said if he was, he would gladly take custody of Quinton and put him in daycare or whatever he needed to do to take care of him. He said the evening after Quinton was reported missing the next day, he went to Leilani's house and said she was in the backyard with her mother and they were all high and drunk and it seemed more like a party than anything. Also, I mean, really, y'all, last week, Leilani and her mom were seen on Tybee Island taking shots of really expensive tequila at a local bar. And at the same time, the FBI, of course, is in a landfill with rakes trying to find her missing son. A worker at the bar said that after a while, they tried to get them to leave. They just weren't comfortable with them being there. They stayed from about 5 to 8, and there was a group of 6. The bar tab was $300, and they were flirty with staff. WASV reporter Brett Buffington said the Quinton's grandmother, Billy, who had custody of him, said they left their home after becoming annoyed with all the media attention. It's interesting because the grandma is still staying with the daughter, even that, I don't know, man, this whole family dynamic is just really screwed up. And it's really sad that that kid seemingly didn't have a chance or anybody who was really advocating for him. And here we are. So let's jump over to bad boy Alec Murdaugh. Going to be covering that trial like I'm covering Wagner right now. He had a hearing on October 20th, and the lead prosecutor, Quinton Waters, said they have video evidence putting Alec, Maggie, and Paul at the crime scene at 8:44 p.m., and the video was actually taken from Paul's cell phone. Murdaugh's attorneys acknowledged the footage and said it was simply a family gathering. I mean, what a family gathering that ends in a double execution style murder. So the time of death listed on Paul's death certificate is around 9 p.m. Alec left the residence at 9:06. He didn't call 911 until 10:07. The defense claims that Curtis Eddie Smith said Paul murdered Maggie after catching her with the groundskeeper, who in return murdered Paul. I mean, it's hogwash. Also at the hearing, Alec asked to have his alibi stricken. And his reasoning for that was that the prosecution did not give the time, date, and location of the murders. So the judge told Alec to give notice of his alibi, giving his location at the time the murders occurred. So I guess he's thinking that up now. His trial for the murders is expected to start on January 23rd of next year, and it's expected to last at least through February 10th. I'm fairly local to that case, just about 2.5 hours away. I'm going to try to go sit in on some too. Okay, also Wagner trial, forgot to put this at the very beginning. The big news right now is that there was a ruling today that said effective immediately, the trial court may not restrict public access to the proceedings, including media access and the ability to photograph or record witnesses, unless a hearing is held on the issue and the court finds that, number one, there exists a reasonable and substantial basis for believing that public access could harm or endanger the fairness of the trial. Number two, the potential for harm outweighs the benefits of public access. And three, there are no reasonable alternatives to closure. And so here's the thing, though. Deering has 7 days to rule on this. And so the question now, is he going to kick the can while Jake testifies? I really think Angela's going to be up next. It would be great if he just accepts that an appellate court has once again ruled against him and he needs to go ahead and let this testimony be shown. or is he going to kind of want the hearing? Apparently, according to Eric, there's been a lot of commotion in the courtroom since this happened, in and out in chambers. Jake's attorneys were seen there. So maybe after lunch, we will have some kind of an answer. All right. Also, Debbie Collier, who was found dead on September 11th of this year. Law enforcement sources have told news media outlets that Debbie's death may not have been a homicide as they had originally thought, which makes no sense to me whatsoever, given how this woman was found. And local radio station WCHM said a ranking member of the Hersham Sheriff's Office said it would be a good assumption that investigators are not focusing on her immediate family at this time. They had a celebration of life service for Debbie. They don't have any evidence, according to this source, that her husband, daughter, or the daughter's boyfriend were anywhere near where her body was found. So the celebration of life service was held on the 22nd, and all of her family was there. It was invitation only. And, are they going to try to say this was an accident or she took her own life? Because it just doesn't make sense. I don't even know that they found that torch lighter at the scene. If they did and I'm missing it, let me know in the comment section, please. But they could also be saying this to kind of get people to relax, that maybe in their radar, if they hear a source says they're not looking at the family, they might, let their guard down and slip up. Sometimes you give people an inch and they take it. I just don't understand, how would she have burned herself? I mean, we still don't have the autopsy report, so we don't know about toxicology or the actual cause of death or manner. So I guess maybe that's going to tell a lot. And then finally, last little update, Ethan Crumbly pled guilty to 24 charges for murdering 4 of his classmates and wounding 7 in Michigan almost a year ago. There was no deal on the table for him. And even though he pled guilty to first-degree murder, normally in Michigan, that's an automatic life sentence without parole. But due to the fact that he was 15 at the time he committed the murders, his attorneys can argue for a shorter sentence or even a chance of parole. He may also be called to testify against his mom and dad, Jennifer and James, who have been charged with manslaughter in this case. And the day before the murders, Ethan was caught by a teacher looking up ammunition on his phone. He got in trouble, texted his mom, and her response was, LOL, I'm not mad at you. You just have to learn not to get caught. The day of the murders, a teacher found him with a disturbing note. It was a drawing of a gun from Ethan that said, "The thoughts won't stop. Help me." There was a bullet on that as well, a drawing of a bullet with the message, "Blood everywhere." His parents were called to the school that day to discuss this. At the time, Ethan had that gun in his backpack. It was not locked up and secured in that home, and it was bought for him by his parents, although they say it was with his own money. So they refused to take Ethan home that day from school and said that they would get him into counseling within 48 hours. So prosecutors said in their filing that Jennifer and James, put simply, they created an environment in which their son's violent tendencies flourished. They were aware their son was troubled, and then they bought him a gun. So the sentencing hearing for Ethan has been set for February 9th. His parents are set to trial sometime next year. So that's the updates currently for most of the cases that we're following. And so going to keep an eye out for this ruling that just came down in the Wagner trial. We'll see if Judge Deering gives in and allows it, or is he going to kick the can and make us wait 7 days while they have time to respond to that ruling? We shall see. Tonight, another episode. We'll go in deep into Jake's testimony, which so far this morning, really, according to Eric, hasn't revealed anything we don't already know, really. So nothing too intriguing so far. Cross-exam is going to be amazing. And I really, really hope that it's televised so we can see Parker and Nash rip into Jake Wagner, who is remorseless for the murder of 8 people. All right, guys, we'll see you later tonight. Have a good afternoon.